All buildings are different, and they all have different sort of risk categories, risk criteria. But you really need to focus your attention whenever a building contains a sleeping risk. So if you have a high-rise property that contains residential flats, for example, a hospital, a hotel, all those sort of buildings where people sleep, because as they sleep, they cannot be aware of a fire happening. Fires can build around them, and they cannot become aware of them. Because of residential towers, for example, they are a series of individual occupancies stacked up on top of each other and next to each other. So a fire in one can spread, if not constructed properly, a fire in one can spread from one to the other, and then whole buildings can become compromised and people can't escape from them properly. So they are some of the most complex buildings for a means of escape criteria, but also from a risk assessment criteria, because these sort of buildings will contain numerous service shafts, numerous fire doors, for example, corridors, protected enclosures that all need to be properly maintained, properly serviced and properly covered in a risk assessment. If you look at other buildings to sort of compare them with, you could look at, say, an office complex or a commercial factory building. They don't contain a sleeping risk. And if a fire happens in those sort of buildings, people can often be aware of that fire quite quickly and make that escape out of that building. So residential towers, anything that contains a sleeping risk is really where you need to focus your attention. And helpfully, within the guidance that's prepared around fire risk assessments, there are four categories of fire risk assessment that you can carry out on a sort of high risk residential tower. And I don't think that's well known in the industry. If I was a responsible person, for example, that was becoming responsible for a building that I wasn't particularly aware of how it was constructed, I would look to always procure a Type 4 risk assessment, so I could be confident that what's there is actually how it should be. So there's proper intrusive exposure into the building, so you can actually see what's actually within that building.